Over 10 years ago, I shot the first real estate photo shoot that I would ever do. And since then, I've personally shot thousands of homes and built an awesome company that has shot well over 10,000 and now has a team in place that runs itself. And the reason I tell you that is because the first few years that I was building my business, I made about every mistake in the book. And it not only cost me a lot of money, it cost me a lot of time and it slowed down my growth as a business, and I don't want that for you. So in this video, I'm gonna be sharing 7 mistakes that a lot of beginners make that I made that wasted a ton of time, and that if you can not make, you will grow so much faster and get to your goals more quickly. Mistake number 1 is not being very specific about the type of client that you want and also the type of client that you're currently shooting for. Real estate photography is a pretty big umbrella that a lot of stuff gets mixed into. Whether it's run-of-the-mill real estate photo shoots like my business does when a home is for sale, or shooting a little bit more architectural high-end stuff for a builder or a stager, they're not all the same thing. And if you treat every client the same way, you're gonna have a lot of people that are not satisfied. And my personal take on this before I explain the different types is I think it's actually a good idea to just pick one and go all in. So for example, at my business, Norman & Young, we don't do any of the high-end commercial or architectural stuff. It's not our skill set, it's not the type of client we wanna serve. So with that being said, really the breakdown is there's standard real estate photo shoots, which are for real estate agents who want photos to market a home for sale. The vast majority of the time, what a real estate agent is looking for is as wide of shots as you can possibly get that show the entire room. And they don't typically like a lot of detail or more like zoomed in style shots because they're trying to show the house, not necessarily the furniture in there. Now, occasionally you'll have a realtor, especially in the really high-end market, which we'll talk about in a second, who wants more of those architectural editorial style shots. But for the most part, real estate agents are looking for super wide. Now, if you shoot for like a really high-end stager or a builder, like interior design photography or architectural photography, they typically want a different style of photography that's not as wide as you can go, maybe a little bit more zoomed in. You bring in more complicated gear like tilt shifts, and a lot of the time you spend more than an hour on a single photo. You can see how those are obviously very different parts of the industry, but what a lot of people do wrong is they try to do a little bit of everything. And so be very careful about the type of client you're shooting for and why you're shooting for that type of client. People think that to make more money, you need to go into that higher end interior design or architectural photography. And I just don't think that's true. Maybe as a solo photographer you will. It's just a different business model. And if you look at the businesses out there that scale, not big as in a couple $100,000 a month, but even like the mid-tier businesses that are doing like 50 grand a month, they pretty much all focus on the volume side of things. So what I'm trying to say as the whole of mistake number 1 is there are different types of real estate photography clients, and it's a good idea to know which one you're shooting for and go all in with that specific type of client. The second mistake that I see so many new real estate photographers making, another mistake that I made, is you think the way to make more money is to have a better, more complicated workflow to get 4% better photos. So you spend a lot of time learning how to do a different type of photography, bringing in a lot of flashes, buying expensive gear, and having a complicated workflow. And all I can tell you is that that just doesn't make you more money. You're gonna spend a lot of time where it doesn't matter, and that's why a lot of photographers don't make a lot of money. And in my opinion, that's why the phrase the starving artist exists. If you focus too much on the art side of things, you typically neglect the business side of things, and the business side of things is where the money comes from. The third mistake, and kind of along these same lines, is a lot of photographers want to shoot the expensive multi-million-dollar homes, and they think that if they do that, they'll make more money. And so they do what we just talked about. They have this really complicated workflow to try to get better. They do a different style of photography. And I'm not here to say there's a right answer. What I am here to say is if you look at the biggest companies in real estate media and even those mid-tier companies, the vast majority of them make most of their money from those standard real estate photo shoots, that average house that's being listed. And the good news about that is, my guess is you probably live in an area with a lot of average homes, and in any place you live, the average homes are gonna be the most volume, right? Because that's what makes them average. And so even if you do live in a higher end market that has a lot of multi-million-dollar homes, there's still gonna be more average homes because most people live in an average home. And just a quick PS on this one, but they just take longer as well. So yeah, you might be able to charge more, but they take longer and there's more that goes into it. Mistake number 4 is spending too much time focused on your camera at a real estate photo shoot. Especially those first 50 or 100 shoots you do, you're kind of nervous, right? You're trying to make sure everything's right. Well, what's gonna grow your business long-term is not necessarily the things you did with your camera. You have to do that, but it's how you interacted with your client and with the homeowners. the more accommodating you are and the easier and nicer you are to work with, the more money you make. And so it's really easy to get tunnel vision and just focus on your camera. And not only does that lead to making photo mistakes, right? Like you missed the dog that was in the middle of the room because you were so focused on the camera, but you also don't have time to spend time talking with the homeowner and the agent to make sure that they have a good experience. And the funny thing about this is the more that the agent and the homeowner like you, the better they will think your photos are. There's a story that I often tell. We had two photographers early on. One was really good at talking to people and was enjoyable to work with and really was outgoing, but was not a great photographer, made a ton of mistakes all the time, forgot rooms, everything like that. And we had another photographer who was a little bit more introverted, didn't spend as much time talking to the homeowners or focusing on that experience, but was like an A+ photographer, never made any mistakes and just did really great work. That photographer, the much better photographer, was not nearly as requested as the photographer who made more mistakes. Our clients wanted that photographer who made the mistakes because they liked working with him much better than the other photographer. Interesting lesson, something that's very true. So just make sure you don't get too tunnel vision on your camera and spend time talking to the humans at the shoot. Mistake number 5 is not spending nearly enough time, actually blocking out time to work on getting clients for your business, especially at the start. So many photographers go deep into the process and the technical and the how, and they don't spend much time at all actually trying to grow their business. And the funny thing is, when you're first starting, the growing your business thing, like the meeting people and getting your name out there, is the only thing that actually grows your business. And so when you're first starting, like 95% of the time that you spend, and this is what we do in coaching, it's what our focus is on, right? Is 95% of that time is actually spent on getting clients. I personally recommend the Instagram method, but whatever method you choose, it should be a big portion of your tasks and what you're doing on a daily basis as a business owner. Without clients, you don't have a company. And so if you're not someone who likes trying to figure out how to find clients, you got to get good at blocking it out on your schedule and forcing yourself to do it, because eventually you'll get a ton of referrals and you won't have to do as much client acquisition. But at the start, getting that snowball rolling and getting those referrals to come is all about getting those first few clients, and that is all up to you. Mistake number 6, which tags off of that one, is not doing the right things to get clients. One really common new business owner mistake that a lot of people will talk about who have never built a business before is like all of this stuff that you should do to get clients. You should have a website and get business cards and go pass them out and go do brokerage presentations and maybe run some ads and maybe go on Thumbtack and maybe all this stuff, right? The reality is, as a small business owner, especially when you're first starting, you have a very limited amount of time and a very limited amount of money. So rather than use that limited time and money and try to do 1,000 different things, my advice would be to find the one way to get clients that works better and is cheaper and you get more per hour from, and just going all in on that rather than trying to spread your time thin on a ton of different things. If you do that, if you're good at saying, hey, what is the one thing that per hour that I invest in it gets me the most clients, and just doing that only, you will grow so much faster than the person who spreads themselves thin and doesn't really have the time to get good at any one thing, just kind of throws a bunch out there and sees what happens. That doesn't really work very well. And number 7, and the biggest mistake of all, in my opinion, that happened for me and for so many photographers that are starting, is they spend way too much time thinking about what they're gonna do and not enough time actually taking action. The only thing that grows your business is going out there and trying stuff. You will absolutely fail. You will take some photos that are bad. You will have clients that don't like working with you. You will get people who tell you they don't want to work with you. All of that is part of the process to growing your business. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't think things through and do things as well as you can, but if you sit on the sidelines, you will never grow a business. It's all about taking action, doing that scary thing that feels so scary in the moment, but that you'll look back on as something you wish you would have done sooner, and just taking that step to move forward. The thing that I found to be true at every level as my business grows is that thing that I'm most scared of doing is always the thing I need to do to take my business to the next level. Maybe it's reaching out to that first client. Maybe it's doing that first practice shoot for you. Or maybe you've grown your business and it's doing your first brokerage presentation. Or maybe you're a little bit farther, you're doing 15 to 20 grand a month and it's hiring that first photographer that scares you. Or maybe it's hiring the admin. Or in the case of my business, one thing that was really scary for me was hiring a CEO to run it for me, to run payroll and hire and fire and do everything it takes to run the business. And every time I've done that scary next step, that has been the unlock for my business. And so whatever you're most fearful of doing, number 1, probably not gonna be nearly as scary as you think. Number 2, it's way more scary not to do it and not to get your business to where you could have had it if you would have taken action. So my biggest piece of advice for you is take action. Speaking of action, if you want to work with my team and I directly to help you grow your business, we would love to work with you in coaching. Whether you're at $0 a month and you'll be in our launch program, or you're already got some revenue going, you want to take your business to the next level, and you'd be in forward, we'd love to work with you. Click the link below, talk with our team, and we'll tell you a little bit more about what it would look like to work with us. I'll see you in the next video.